Hopefully this isn't seen as flip-floppy, but it's been a pattern for me and in my life that when I go watch a movie in theaters, I come out of the theater and talk about how great the movie is. It's the best thing I've ever seen, and I absolutely love it.
There we go, folks. Saw the movie. The movie was way cool. The movie was very, very good, very fun. Lots of really good sci-fi action. But as of right now, it's enough to say that the movie is great. You should definitely go see it. Lots of fun to be had.
Then after a while, I settle down and then I figure out what my actual feelings of that movie are. And this doesn't mean that I start to hate the movie. Typically it means that I like the movie more. Because movies are frankly just good. Sometimes though, I come back from a movie and I praise it and I talk about how great it is, and then I sit down and I really settle down and I figure out what my feelings of that movie actually are. And it's not better. And that is the case, unfortunately, with Lightyear. It disappoints me to no end that that's the verdict that I've kind of come to. And I mean, I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm going to kind of keep this broad strokes. But let's start by going over some of the frequently asked questions that I've been getting since I've seen the movie from friends and other people. And then after I do that, I'll go ahead and give you my specific thoughts and why I feel this way. Lightyear is a hardcore sci-fi. It has some funny moments, but the funny moments are not the focus of this movie. It's comedic, but the comedy is not the central focus. It's not a Toy Story movie. Not really in the slightest. It doesn't connect well to Toy Story. The only references to Toy Story you're going to see is at the very beginning. They have a text box that says that in 1995 Andy wanted a Buzz Lightyear action figure because it was from his favorite movie, and this is that movie. And then, Buzz Lightyear will occasionally say a line that makes sense. He said it in the Toy Story movies. It makes sense that he would say it here because that's his Space Ranger persona. And that's the only connection that this movie really has to Toy Story. That's not a problem, necessarily. If you're going into this movie expecting more Toy Story, you're going to be very disappointed because it's not Toy Story. It has very little to do with Toy Story. And it really doesn't, which is very bizarre. Okay, so Toy Story 2, at the very beginning you have that Buzz Lightyear video game level, and that is what we are told Buzz Lightyear is like as a real Space Ranger. That does not apply anywhere in Lightyear. It does not fit at all. Which isn't necessarily a problem. I mean, I read comic books. I spend most of this channel talking about comic books and comic book media. If canon inconsistencies bothered me, we wouldn't be here. But that's another thing to keep in mind. You almost have to forget about Toy Story in order to see this movie and not be bothered by that. Let me tell you about Chris Evans. He fits the role really well. A mark of a good voice actor is that when I listen to them and I see the character, I don't think about the person who's voicing that character. I just think about the character themselves. And Chris Evans, he disappears. All I see when I'm watching the movie is Buzz Lightyear. I didn't think about Chris Evans at all. I didn't think about, this doesn't quite sound like Tim Allen. Which, to be fair, when I see Buzz Lightyear, I don't really think about Tim Allen either. Pixar said they wanted an actor with more gravitas than Tim Allen. I think that's unfair to Tim Allen's skill, because we've seen Tim Allen act as Buzz Lightyear with more gravitas before, and it worked really well. But that's aside, Chris Evans did a good job. I would have preferred if they just kept Tim Allen. I think that would have helped immersion a lot more, but we got what we got, and what we got really worked. That deserves, that's a big topic. The comparison between that and Buzz Lightyear of Star Command that's a big topic. We could talk about that for a long time. I will revisit this though later in this video, which is going to be coming up here pretty soon, because now I get to tell you whether or not I liked it. Initially, I liked it. Initially, I thought it was really cool. Initially, I thought that, this was an interesting movie, and Buzz was really cool in it, and I can find myself enjoying it. But then later, I sat down and realized, no, I didn't like the movie. I liked scenes in the movie, but between the scenes I liked was a lot of stuff that just really fell flat as far as storytelling, as far as the movie is concerned. And that's a problem, because there are major issues with the story in Lightyear, and I cannot look past them. So in broad strokes, here's the story of the movie. Star Command has been marooned on this very hostile planet, and Buzz Lightyear is a space ranger for Star Command, and he's like their go-to test pilot. And what he does is he tests out different fuel combinations to try and get Star Command into hyperspace so that they can get off the planet and get back home. Now, every time Buzz Lightyear goes up into space, he spends 4 minutes in space, but there's a time dilation and 4 years passes back at home base, back at Star Command. So very, very quickly, we find a Buzz Lightyear whose world is changing and evolving and moving on without him. He sees his best friend get married, have children, have grandchildren, eventually dies while he's out in space. As far as he's concerned, he's been out for like a week. She's been living a life for 80 years. Finally, Buzz finds a fuel concoction that works, and when he comes back, Star Command has been put into lockdown, and all of these Zerg bots, all of these robots, have been attacking Star Command constantly for a couple of years now. And now Buzz Lightyear is working with a group of Star Command rookies. There's comparisons to Blask. There's a lot of comparisons to Blask. He ends up working with a team of rookies to destroy the Zerg spaceship so that the robots would leave, so that Star Command can break out of lockdown and they can bring the fuel source to Star Command and get back home. Now, that sounds really cool in of itself, and it is cool. It is a cool storyline. I like that. But the characters are where the story really falls flat. There's not a whole lot of character motivation for any of the characters. There's 4 characters in the team. 2 of them don't have any story motivation. They're mostly there. They're quirky characters, but quirks aren't a character motivation. And then you have the 2 characters that do have a motivation, Izzy Hawthorne and Buzz Lightyear. Only one of them has any kind of satisfying motivation that is actually built up through the movie, and it's not Buzz Lightyear. And that's a big problem. If the guy you're naming your movie after is a weaker character than the secondary character, it would have been easier if we just called it a Hawthorne movie, if we just called it Star Command or something. We didn't even put Buzz Lightyear in it. Maybe we put him in as a cameo at the end. The movie probably would have been better, honestly, because the character arc for Izzy Hawthorne is more significant. See, Izzy Hawthorne is the granddaughter of Buzz Lightyear's best friend from, before Buzz did all of the space experiments. And her whole deal is that Space Rangers have since been disbanded in Star Command, and she's trying to live up to her grandmother's name and her grandmother's legacy. There's a point where she ends up getting her grandmother's Space Ranger uniform, and that means something, because you see her get really distraught over her name being on the Space Ranger uniform, and she feels like she hasn't earned that. And it's okay, that's interesting, that's neat, and she does overcome it. There's a lot of distractions on the trip to overcoming that. We have this thing where she's afraid of space, and so we have to take a detour and talk about that, but it's okay. it her story arc is fine. Buzz's has big problems. Because, like, Buzz Lightyear's big deal is that he feels guilty that he hasn't been able to finish the mission in time for his best friend to be able to go back into being a space ranger again. Because he assumed that's what she always wanted. There's like a time travel line about a time machine, and it's like half a line. And that's what a big part of, like, the plot hangs on, is that half line. They don't bring it up at the beginning of the movie, so we don't consider it as part of the rules of the movie. It's just kind of a throwaway line until the very end when they encounter Zurg. And then all of a sudden that half line became relevant, but they don't revisit that. And Zurg, Zurg does not work. Oh, Zurg is broken in this movie. Which is so sad to say. Because Zurg was really cool visually speaking, and like he was imposing and he was menacing and he looked cool. But he doesn't work. Like at all. Like, his character backstory involves rules of the universe that were never said to exist. Like, we have time travel, but Zurg is like an alternate universe time travel, but they never bring up alternate universe rules in this. They never say that they can split the time stream into different events. They just say that they have at the end of the movie, and it's like, that doesn't work. Also, like, his plot just isn't very good. It's not well thought out, and it leaves me with a lot of questions. Alright, so I've been editing this, and I realize I keep bringing up something. I keep bringing up a film theory, film rule, storytelling rule that I think could probably be explained really quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and explain it super quick. So I keep talking about like the rules of the universe. And it's like, well, I mean, the universe is big. Couldn't you put anything in there and have people discover things? And it's like, sort of, but not in the sense of a story. You see, every good movie you've ever loved, and you can check yourself against this, within the first 15 or 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes at most, they will explain everything that you can expect the world to work with and to do within that very, very beginning of that movie. So while you could say, well, this is a sci-fi, and it's fine if we have time travel to the future, and then later we introduce time travel to the past, and later we introduce alternate timelines. Maybe in real life you could do that, but in the case of a movie, you can't just keep adding new rules onto the plot just for the sake of convenience. If you wanted to do that, you would have to say, okay, well, time dilation happened, Buzz Lightyear, when you went up into space, but there is an option and a possibility that you could go backwards, but that's all theoretical. If they said that at the beginning of the movie, then it would be fine. If at the beginning of the movie they said every time you jump into the future, you end up creating an alternate timeline, then that's okay. That would be okay. That would solve any of the issues that pop up later. But the very fact that they never say this in the beginning of the movie, and every time it gets brought up, like in the third act of the movie, and it's like, that's not okay. That doesn't fit the rules of the movie that we've established. The only rule we've established as far as time travel is concerned is that Buzz keeps jumping into the future, and he cannot go back. That's like the big rule that they keep bringing up. It just doesn't work. That's a big problem. Anytime you have a movie that does that, that just... If you have a movie that does that, what happens is you create a plot hole. That's like where the majority of plot holes come from not explaining the rules of the universe. Like I said, the rules of the universe can be anything you want. If in the first 15, 30 minutes of your Superman movie, you say, okay, this guy can fly and he can fly on his own power and doesn't need like a jetpack or anything. There you go. That's everything we needed to say. And it works. Even if your movie is completely bonkers, we accept that Superman can fly because it's part of the rules of the universe. Anyway, blah, 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 blah. No, I mean, in the past when we've had Zurg show up in something, we didn't have to explain him, and he was kind of like this mustache-twirling, kind of cheesy villain. But that's okay, because the other characters were strong enough to support themselves. Zurg wasn't a character so much as he was a symbol. In this one, he was a character. And it just didn't work. It was really disappointing. That's part of the problem, is that we got this Buzz Lightyear movie, but we got a better Buzz Lightyear movie earlier. Buzz Lightyear of Star Command had a very similar setup. You had Buzz Lightyear, and he had a team of rookies, and they went to fight Zurg and save Star Command. If you were to boil down both movies, that is what they would both boil down to. But the difference is that in Buzz Lightyear of Star Command, all 4 characters had a character motivation and had goals to accomplish. Lightyear had 4 characters, only 2 of them had character motivations, and only 1 of them fulfilled it in a satisfying way, and it wasn't Buzz Lightyear. And you had Zurg, and Zurg didn't really have much of a backstory in Buzz Lightyear of Star Command, but we didn't need him to. We start off with him being the evil emperor. That's the status quo. He is the bad guy. And the bulk of the story was very centralized on Buzz Lightyear and his team. This one, the story tried to be centered on Buzz, and then when Zurg showed up, they tried to bring Zurg into Buzz's story, and it just didn't work. It's like they were trying really hard to make Zurg an emotional villain, but at the end of the day, I didn't care. I didn't care that he was emotional. I cared more that he was big and scary and evil and mean. Not that he was, emotionally nuanced. And I think that's part of the problem. Maybe I went into it thinking that evil Emperor Zurg is just evil. And maybe that was part of my problem. In Buzz Lightyear of Star Command, all of the side characters were interesting. They were fun to watch. They had actual impact on the story. So many side characters show up in Lightyear and don't do anything. Like the commander of Star Command in Lightyear has like 4 lines, and they never revisit him. We never see him like try to affect the story at all. He has 4 lines, then at the very end he completely changes the ending from what it should have been. It's just like he came out of nowhere and did nothing when he was here. Except at the very end where he did a whole bunch of stuff, but it's like, I don't care because this character doesn't mean anything. I don't know. At the end of the day, a lot of movies, they go through the test of time and they come out with a couple of different options. Sometimes they are looked at as unappreciated in their time but appreciated now. Sometimes they're looked at as they were just always bad. Sometimes they're looked at as they were always good. Lightyear fits into an interesting scenario where I think what's going to happen is the same thing that happened to Superman Returns. There are great scenes that we love. There are great scenes that are really, really cool. But also a lot of fluff to get to the cool scenes. And unfortunately, cool scenes do not make a good movie. And I mean, if I were just to put my personal bias in here, I would love it because it's tangentially related to Toy Story, but that's... I didn't like it. I wish I could have liked it. I want to like it so bad, but I can't. Guys, if you want to watch Lightyear, go ahead and give it your own thoughts. I would say it's worth watching once. But like the only time I'd ever probably rewatch this is if I'm doing a Toy Story marathon, and it would be like the I'm obligated to watch this in order to complete the marathon kind of movie. So that's my thoughts on Lightyear. Pixar just didn't show up and bring their A game with this one, and that's really disappointing. Because like this was a cool concept. It could have led to some really cool things, and it's just not going to. This movie, it had style. It was falling with style. So until next time, thank you for joining me. Have a great day. Remember to always be your best self.